Hey, what's up, you dad? Felipe, hello. All right, let's start out with the basics. Unboxing. I'm using a slightly different setup than last time. I don't know if it's going to go better or worse, but we'll find out. Hey, careful, careful. Lots of foam. And sure is well packed. At the very least, I'll say that. Grab a knife. Hey, orange. All right. Come. So this is the rails for mounting. Let me just kind of take this apart nice and carefully so I could show it. Oh, wow, that's good to hear. I actually am using a brand new microphone system running through NVIDIA Broadcast. A friend of the channel sent me an awesome Rode wireless Go, and I had a Rode mic, so lav mic, so that's the combination. So yeah, it's I think this is awesome. Such a really nice gesture too. So okay, these are just the basic metal mounting. These over here. I'm trying to contain the mess into one nice, neat pile, because everybody knows how styrofoam could just go everywhere. So I'm going to be a little slow opening this, just so I don't turn this office slash family room into a den for just little dust bunnies of packing peanuts and stuff. The Killer Mike 83. How much does a M20 M2U sell for? Um, Honestly, it's there's so many factors involved. I mean, if you found one brand new in the box, never been opened, it'd probably sell for a ton of money. If it's beat up with burn-in, basically free. Because with burn-in, I mean, you can't really fix that unless you could somehow find a replacement tube, but it would be cheaper to find another monitor. So it really depends condition. You buy something off of a random seller, I wouldn't pay that much. You buy something off of Steve from RetroTink, who probably rebuilt the entire thing for you, then expect to pay a lot. And expect to pay a lot and get what you pay for. So, kind of a hard question. It's kind of like how much is a car? Ugh, styrofoam. I'll be getting the vacuum out again later. These things drive me nuts. All right, their bag of goodies I'll just tuck under there for now. This certainly was packed well, though, so props for that. Last thing you want is to buy a pro piece of equipment and have it just smashed up in shipping. It's out of here. I'll just stick that styrofoam over here. All right. So I'm assuming this way is down because you can see just like their other monitor, they have one VGA and one HDMI port. I'm not sure what that red thing is. We'll have to take a look later on. I'd like to use it first before I start pulling it apart and potentially damage it. And then we have, of course, the menu or the OSD controls. All right, let's flip this thing over and around and see what we got. That's pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to be able to balance it with these. I'm going to try my best, though. I think maybe if I flip these upside down. So one thing I want to do real quick is put it up next to my Astro City and see if it's too wide for that. I'm assuming yes, but we shall see. Yeah, just a little bit. So this is definitely for custom arcade cabinets or in the one that they sell, not for something like a Astro City cab replacement, which is understandable. I mean, that's probably a totally different use case, and hopefully they'll have another monitor for that at some point. I mean, part shortage is affecting everything, so. All right, so let me flip these so there's more padding in the back. See if we can use this as a stand. Yeah, good enough. I might prop something else behind here just to make sure it doesn't fall over. I don't know about that. I'll have to put something heavy back here just to change it up and make sure it works. So let me. Okay, power it on. I love lag testing in the morning. Yeah, I'm trying to find a safe way to prop this thing up. I gotta see what else I could put behind here. Actually, you know what? I think one of these boxes will do just fine. Yeah, all right, that'll work. That's safer. Yeah. Oops. Pop my mic off. Hopefully you can all still hear me. I'm going to pick that up now, otherwise I'll be grinding pieces of styrofoam into the floor every time I walk around it. In fact, I think I'm going to just put this over on the other side. Here we go. All right, I'm going to grab an HDMI cable, and of course, the very first thing you could imagine, the time sleuth. It should fit in LCD cabs like Vuelix, Norix, etc. Yes, absolutely. It really should, and they have their own version of that that kind of looks like a modern Vuelix that looks pretty neat. Good. That. All right. I could power the time sleuth just from this PC over here. I might actually have to reprogram this time sleuth. I totally forgot what resolutions I had in here. So I might have to do that live on stream, which is a little embarrassing. I should have had that prepared, but... Crap, 1080i is only 1.6 milliseconds of lag. It accepts 540p. VGA. Wow, that's all pretty awesome. I have the wrong resolutions on here, though, so this might actually be a good opportunity. Is there any resolutions that you all specifically want me to test on this? I was planning on programming it with 240p, 480i, 480p, 720p, and 1080p. Any other suggestions? No. Hey, Greg. Yeah, just did 1080i, and it was just over 1 frame of lag. Or 1 frame, I'm sorry, 1 millisecond. I gotta get that right. I don't want people mistaking this thing for a laggy panel. Okay. I think I might actually have the time sleuth file here. I might not have to re-download it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, let me Word Prime Programmer. Got my USB blaster. It should only take a second. Should. No, 1 frame wouldn't be, but it's just over 1 millisecond of lag, not frame. So yeah, definitely my bad on that one. USB blaster. Come on. Okay. Add. Ah, done. In that time sleuth video, it makes it look like programming the time sleuth is a long, drawn-out process, but you just saw for yourselves. That's how quick it was. Does the monitor do Bob deinterlacing? I don't know, to be honest. Oh, Adam said they're glad I did this with the other monitor. They now own one. Awesome. They might have to get this one too. Yeah, well, let's see. So, cross fingers here. Hopefully I programmed this correctly. All right, 240p latency is same, under 2 milliseconds, not frames. I messed that up before. Excuse my stupidness. 1.89 milliseconds, and then in the middle, 9, and then in the bottom, 15. So beautiful. So let's just cycle through. 480i. It does look Bob deinterlacing. It does look like it's jumping up and down, which is fine. I mean, that's what we're all used to. I think I think in the scenario of an arcade monitor like this, if you had to pick one or the other, you'd pick a lower latency mode. And if you really wanted motion adaptive deinterlacing, you could try any of the other adapters that are out there. So still 1.86, 1.83. Yeah, so this is awesome. This is just as low latency as their other panel. The lag jumping around is me just not having the sensor lined up. Oh, actually, all right, so if I get the sensor as close to the top as possible, we're at 1.3. That is pretty incredible. I'm going to try, yeah, wow. All right. So, definitely passes the lag test, that's for freaking sure. Dominic, I don't think I have the ability to take or to test 24 kilohertz, to be honest with you. I don't have any arcade boards that do it, and I wouldn't really be sure how to test it. And not only that, if we switched over and tried to, the stream would turn into me trying to figure out how to test 24 kilohertz. So I'd love to do that at some time, but I got to just pick and choose with stuff like this what I can test. I could do 24 frames per second, but I don't think any game would ever do that. Ryan, would a test kit like that work on a CRT? Absolutely. Check out the Time Sleuth video I did. All you need is a USB blaster like this, and you can program it with whatever resolutions you want. All right, so let's see, what should we do next? Probably test the analog video input, because that was also really impressive on the last one. So let me grab a VGA cable and see if we could test maybe the SCART cleaner again and see how that goes. So does it need 15 kilohertz TTL? Can it do RGBS, or does it need RGB HV? All of those typical questions. And let me add notes on this so I remember. Right. Grab my Nomad. And I think a SCART cleaner and a power, and I believe then that would be all we need. Oh, and an RGB cable, of course. So, unless anybody has any other ideas, I was just going to proceed exactly like I did with the original tests, and test analog, digital, move to the Mister, see what we could do with that, and kind of just go from there. But anybody has any suggestions or ideas, please just chime in, and I will see what I could do. The retail price. No, I'm not sure, but I did link to it in the description, and I think they have distributors, and I also think that they're potentially looking at US distribution as well, which is a big deal because that would significantly drop the price for stuff like this. Okay, so I have the SCART cleaner, this, and I think I just need power, and we see where we are at. Is that power? Wrong one. Is that 385 US? And Ryan had a question. Is there a credible site that has all latency testing for monitors? They bought a 1 millisecond LG monitor for their Felix, but it ended up really being 3 to 5 milliseconds, which is still very fast, by the way. But I think artings.com definitely has it, and I was keeping track for a while, and then I just kind of forgot to. So maybe we could add that to the wiki, and just all of us start putting our info on there. Okay, so let's check out the different. So it looks like TTL sync is required. I'm just double checking. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that was the switch from TTL to 75 ohm sync. So that is still required. We are getting a little bit of interference here for direct in that I did not see on the other one. I could try a different SCART cleaner. Maybe that one's damaged, but we could also test the settings in here. But before I even do that, let's just go in and, okay, this is not deinterlacing the image. This is treating it like progressive as it should. I actually will do the scroll test too, just before we even get into the settings. Yeah, okay. Not bad, but let's check out these menu options and see if there's even a setting that we could use to clear this up. So, up and down is reversed again on the controller board, which, look, of all the things to possibly worry about, this isn't one of them. Doesn't appear to be doing anything for the black light. Do you all see a difference? I don't think that actually does anything. That's interesting. I'm going to leave it at 50 in case we run into any issues. That definitely does something. Was it 48 by default, so we should probably just leave it there. Sharpness looks good, but let's mess with aspect ratio before that because it still looks a little smooth, but that could be just because it's stretched horizontally. So let's back out of there. Auto color, sure. Interesting. So let's move to the checkerboard pattern and see if we can. Wait, you know what? I really should try, before I mess with any of this, I really should be getting the aspect ratios. Let me just turn that back down to 0 and go from there. Color. Aspect ratio. 16 by 9. 4 by 3. All right, beautiful. 5, 4. Ugh. All right, so 4 by 3 is good. Overscan can't access. Overdrive. I don't know what that is. Ultra Vivid creates this like ringing artifact around. So I'm just going to leave that off. That's like edge enhancement. So, no. All right, so I could back out of here. Input. Funny, they also have 2 HDMIs on this, but there's only one out there. And same with volume, although I think there must be some kind of external speaker jack or a way to wire them on this. So yeah, now let's back out. Now, let me check the chat in case I'm missing anything here. But as a DVI and an HDMI port, can I test if there's any difference in latency? It's a VGA and HDMI port, not DVI. I can test the VGA port. The last one that I tested was identical, but you're right. I should double check just to be thorough. Wonder if this is rack mountable in Tate mode. Yep, there's 4 metal brackets, one for each side, and you could mount it in any orientation as long as this is bolted around. Hello, the real Phoenix. Nicole, yes, exactly. So, sort of. It's a 32-inch monitor designed for arcade setups. It won't fit in a candy cab, I think, but it will fit in Vuelich-style cabs with flat panels, and it's meant to replace those and handle everything from arcade resolutions all the way up to modern. Real, but this is 16:9. Yeah, but I mean, other than not physically being able to mount it in a candy cab, who cares? As long as there's a 4x3 setting. By the way, I'm not like talking down to you. I'm just kind of saying, like, I don't think that would affect anything. There's a rolling line, which must be refresh rate. Yeah, I'm seeing that too, so I'm going to try to tweak that now. What's the point of this being 16:9? It's a fucking arcade monitor that takes 15 kilohertz up to 1080p and 1.3 milliseconds lag. That's exactly the point of this thing. Okay, let's continue on. There's the checkerboard in this one. Okay. So I don't know if phase is the issue. And the low-pass filter on the SCART cleaner doesn't seem to be doing anything. I could definitely try another SCART cleaner, but let's kind of take a look and see. Yeah, that doesn't really clean up the analog issues. Still getting rolling interference. And remember, if anybody's just joining the stream, please remember that I am putting a Sega Nomad stock directly into this. So there's no scaler, it's analog, and it's the direct, jeez, wish Voltar was here, the direct original signal. Yeah, that's weird. Oop. Yeah, that's not really doing anything. So let's go back to the scroll test and see what we got. So it is definitely not as sharp as the other monitor. It's still doing a good job, all things considered, but it's not as sharp as the 20-inch. That really looked like a, it looked like a cheap scaler in a good way, not a bad way. Yeah, so that's about what I would expect with, let me try not to stand in front of the camera. Sorry, everybody. So if like you look at the trees and you look at the background, that's about what I would expect with just a generic monitor. But crank that sharpness up. That's a noticeable difference. It's just not as sharp as the 20-inch that I had tested. So let me just try a different SCART cleaner real quick just to see if that's any of the issue. Just checking the chat. 3DAC, do I know if Arcooda displays can accept unusual resolutions like for Mortal Kombat? I don't know for sure, but and I don't think I have a way to test here, unfortunately. Yeah, real. I would honestly. I mean, this zero sarcasm. I would check the original 20-inch review that I posted in the description of this monitor, and that would be why you would want this. And if you already have a scaler and you already have a low latency monitor, the only other reason that you might want with this is simply because it has the these mounting solutions for it. That way you could place these on here, one for each side, and you could mount it anywhere that you'd like, not just a standard VESA mount. But I think really the killer feature is accepts digital and analog and any 15 kilohertz signal all the way up. Although the interference is bugging me, so let me see if I could just double check. I think I have the same exact SCART cleaner I used last time. I just need this exact thing that I just found. All right, perfect. Give this a try. Let's see what we got. No, it's the same thing. I am getting interference going up. So I guess before we go any further, let me try the RetroTink 5X just to see, because if there's still interference with that, then there might be an issue. Although I didn't see any interference whatsoever with the time sleuth, so I doubt there would be with this. But we got to be thorough, obviously. And we could certainly try other analog sources. I can grab my Dreamcast and just kind of go from there. But no, zero interference. Looks absolutely beautiful. So let's go through and obviously, well, actually, yeah, hold on. Let's go down aspect ratio, original, good, full. Yeah, that's probably best. We could test sharpness real quick to make sure that doesn't make a difference in native resolution. No, which is good. That's what we want. Let me get a tree in view here. Now, as expected, when you're in the native resolution, it doesn't really do anything. Let's try. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Perfect. 1080p over. So let's see how the scrolling looks on this. Is there much ghosting? No, this is looking good. So it's certainly good with digital video, so we should try some more analog sources to see what was up with that. Let me check in with the chat and see what we got. Hey, what's up, Drew? Any special ground solution you might have to do for the 240p test suite? No, but good question. And in fact, that might be an issue where if this wasn't my normal setup, I might actually say, oh, hey, what's going on with this? You know, is there something wrong? But because this is the same setup, the same plugs, the same power source that I've always used, and now suddenly there's an issue, very little chance that it's me. Yeah, I am really sorry. I really don't have any way to test 24 kilohertz unless somebody has a very easy way to do that. I could certainly try, but not really something that I would have an easy ability to test. So I guess let me grab a Dreamcast to try the VGA signal. And is there anything else that we should be doing? Well, you know, I guess. Not that this makes too big a difference because this would be the same on every LCD panel basically, but um, right. Yeah, scan lines look pretty darn good. Probably looking terrible on stream, which is why I never really show these things on video. But I mean, with respect to Arcooda and this monitor, showing scan lines on a a low latency flat panel isn't super exciting because almost any could handle that. The fact that I want to test more of its arcade related features, but so far so good. Latency alone is excellent on this one, 1 point something milliseconds of lag. The odd tech, I'm not sure, but why don't you jump on, if you don't mind, if you have the ability, jump on the Time Sleuth website and see. Maybe we could just use that and test it. Okay, I will turn off the Nomad and switch over to try using the Dreamcast. I think we're all set with these adapters. Put that back. Oh boy, I'm gonna need a power connector, which is buried back here. Sorry, everybody. I got to do a shop tour or a room tour or whatever one of these days just to kind of show all the crap I have in here and why I'm always moving stuff around and opening up boxes to get the stuff. All right, we got just a basic Dreamcast VGA cable, nothing special. Does it have black frame insertion? No, unfortunately. And I think it's locked at 60 hertz. If anybody wants to double check the website, I'd love to know that for sure. But I think this is a 60 hertz monitor. It might be a 50-60, but auto switches to VGA mode, and there's some vertical interference here. Let's go. Auto adjustment seems to work very nicely. That was pretty cool. So let me try to load up a game or something. I actually forgot what I did with all my Dreamcast stuff. I know I got a controller somewhere around here. Dreamcast 240p test suite. Perfect. The price, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's in Australian dollars, and I don't know what distributors they have shipped to the US, but I know that they are at least looking into US distribution, which would mean North America would be a lot cheaper all of a sudden. The other thing that they had sent, some HDMI and VGA cables, which is nice, but they also sent their adapter that allows for arcade boards to be sent into this. So that's cool. I don't know if I'm going to have the ability to test that today. I don't think so. But this is something that I would probably bring to Arcade Brooklyn and let them give it a shot. I'm going to see if I can get it in focus for you. Hopefully, sort of. But, you know, VGA out, connect your RGB S signals. I don't know what E would be, but... And there's also a breakout adapter for that too. So that's kind of neat. And obviously, pot controls. I still have that Sega Sports Edition Dreamcast. I would love to trade with somebody. It's too nice to be using for these tests. It should be in a setup somewhere. All right, so we still have some vertical interference going on, but we no longer have that horizontal line coming up that we had with 15 kilohertz. So let's see what we could do. Scan lines. Okay. Drop shadow test, same thing. I mean, I had zero worries about this thing not working right in 480p, but you know, always good to test. There's a little bit of ringing going on in the background. Let me check the. Let me slow this down actually, if I can. Let me see if that's the sharpness. No, and the sharpness does a great job with 480p stuff. I mean, you know, just like last time, this is not a replacement for a RetroTink, but this is a great job. I mean, this is a really great job for a scaler built in. So, it's any other. Ultra vivid. I always laugh at these. Yeah, that is not good. So, you know, the optional ultra vivid mode, probably safe to skip that one, but whatever. So, I'm not really seeing any interference anymore. Sorta? I guess let me try more patterns and see. I mean, all of this is looking pretty darn good. Yeah, actually. So this is looking good in 480p. So what else should we be testing here? Steven, do I have a super gun for my Mortal Kombat PCs, or are they just pure JAMA? So you can't really use pure JAMA unless you have an actual arcade machine, which I do, but those were all used via a super gun. The only thing is that those are not with me at the moment. Otherwise, I would have just grabbed one and plugged it in for you. But Unfortunately, the only arcade board I have at the house right now is a Neo Geo one. Retro Reloaded, how is this special? Um, be- Same way I've answered this a bunch of times already. It accepts 15 kilohertz all the way up to 1080p, has a sharp scale feature. Sharp scale works great with 480p analog sources. Some issues with 15 kilohertz, so I think I should try another console. Sometimes things just don't get along, so uh, maybe we'll just try something different and see. Lag test, 1.3 milliseconds of lag. Native res is 1080p. So I could try Super Nintendo next, which might make sense because that has kind of those odd timings, so we could see if that works directly. Yeah, Retro Reloaded. So if you want an idea of what to expect for this now without sitting through the live stream, I mean that in a nice way, check out in the description. I did a review of their 20-inch version, and that kind of goes over why anything like this would matter when when there's obviously other flat panel options out there. What we're really determining is what is the difference between this one and that one. Um, is it basically going to work the same? Is it but bigger? Is it different? And the only thing I found so far is the first direct 240p RGB input that I tested had some interference on the screen. So I'm going to test another one just to see, because I've absolutely seen that before with these old consoles and their weird timings and stuff. I've seen that situation where 5 consoles look great and one looks terrible. And in fact, the situation I'm thinking of, it was Genesis that wasn't working right. So that's testing a variety is probably a best idea. Yeah, Ariel, exactly. Well, we could try it with the RetroTink 5X, but I'm also going to try it plugged in directly. Okay. Yes. Now there are only VGA and HDMI inputs, so it won't be able to accept component video, although that would have been kind of neat to be able to try that out as well. But not a deal breaker for me, at least. One of these days, I'll find somebody whose dream console is a mint condition sports edition Dreamcast, and I can get a nice beat up one for testing. Yes, Ariel, I was looking to trade because what I have is a beautiful mint condition one. I mean, it's got like a hairline scratch on it, but for something over 20 years old, it's pretty mint. And a matching controller, which is in really good condition, and it's all stock because that was my original plan, was to keep the black one all original and then have a pimped out one. But what I really need is a beat up one with an ODE, so I could just hammer away at these different tests and not even have to think about, do I have the disc? Oh, what if I balance the Dreamcast on the side of the table to be able to get to it? What if I drop my beautiful Sports Edition one? So I really just want a beater. Yellowed and cracked would actually be preferred. All right. C-Sync SCART cable. Between something like this and a portable OLED monitor, which would be the better choice for retro? Space is a real premium for them, so a CRT is out of the question, really. You know, if space is an issue, I think I would take a step back and think about your overall setup. Are you going to use this only for retro? Is this going to be combo retro and modern? What else would you need to plug into it? And kind of just approach it from there, because for your setup, getting yourself like a 42-inch OLED monitor might just be the better way to go about doing it. And then connecting everything through scalers or directly. If you want a dedicated little setup, Greg's LCD CRT is probably a really good bet. It's tiny, it but it performs really well. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, auto adjustment. So remember, when we boot SNES, it's that weird 512 resolution. So let me grab an SNES controller and start messing with this. This is the only time I like these 1.5 foot long Super Famicom controller cables when I'm doing a live stream like this. I don't want to trip over everything. So auto, yeah, not really liking SNES. And let's double check again. So it looks to me that while this thing did process 240p as progressive, it doesn't love the 15 kilohertz signal. I'm not really sure why. It could be the built-in low-pass filtering. It could be something on the sync line, but it definitely just freaked out with the SNES. Adam, we could certainly open it up. Oh, Daniel, if it's a purely dedicated setup and space is an issue, grab either Greg's LCD CRT. That's a very small one. If you want something a little bit bigger, you could look into the 20-inch of this Arcooda. You could look into like an old Dell monitor, you know, those older flat panels. So I think taking another look at it would be, and taking a look at the insides would probably be a good way to determine something come loose during shipping. Is there something happening causing some interference? So let me grab the foam pads and get started. I'm going to try not to stand in front of the camera like that anymore. So Retro Reloaded, I showed that before. It looks awesome, and I don't think I would call it silly. I would just say that unless you specifically needed the mounting that this has, buying this and plugging a RetroTink 5X into it, I mean, you could get an Amazon or Best Buy or whatever else TV that's almost as much or as low latency for less money and less effort. But this, I think, the draw to this, number one, is its mounting, because it has those four metal brackets. So this is really for arcade machine style solutions. I was impressed with how it scaled 480p though. So while it's not as good for arcade stuff as the other one, I don't hate it. Okay, so we have the LVDS connection going to the main panel. We have the power source going to the panel. I'm not sure what this extra wire is over here. Nothing looks loose, nothing looks bad. There is a ground wire, which is set from the panel, but that's the LVDS ground wire, so if that was loose, then you'd see the interference on every input. And the VGA input goes directly onto the board. So overall, this is a basic setup. I mean that in a good way, but there doesn't appear to be anything in there that would cause any interference. Anybody want to see anything else while I have it open? Yeah, Reloaded. I agreed. And in fact, they make their own modern arcade style setup, like Vuelix style, and this is the panel they use in it, so it is pretty good. Yeah, Ariel, if you have you said you have an original white plus a modded one with a mode and a DC digital. Well, definitely don't need the DC digital. I would like a mode because I want to start working on if you could connect. Somebody did it. It was proof of concept, but they showed that you were able to use Raspberry Pi Zero, one of the little ones, to stream ROMs from RetroNAS over to the mode, which I just think would be incredible. But I never got a chance to test it because I don't have a mode. So if you have a Dreamcast that's all beat up with an extra mode, we'd certainly work something out for trade. That's worth more than just the Sports Edition Dreamcast and controller, but I'm sure I could find other stuff that might sweeten the deal for you. Not a PVM, but, you know, something. So I'm going to just kind of hang out and clean up a minute just in case anybody wants to see anything on the inside. If Ash was here, he'd probably have 15 things he'd want me to check on it. And up next, I'm going to be testing Mr. and lag testing the VGA side just to confirm. It should be identical, but thank you to whoever reminded me. Never just assume that, you know? My controller ready for Mr. testing. Yeah, the Tito's one was kind of different because that was playing off of the SD card on the Raspberry Pi. I'm actually really looking forward to talking about that in this week's podcast. I asked Tito if he wouldn't mind writing up a post about it because that is tied with the best solution that I know. If you only want to load stuff on your PS2, that's a winner. If you have any other console that you want to do that with as well, then I actually think RetroNAS is a pretty big upgrade. But it really is about your setup. I don't think anybody could definitively say this one is better than the other. It's really total setup related. Oh, also, let me just double check. I didn't see any audio connections on here at all. So there's no audio port. Oh, wait, there is. That's it right there. So that must be audio out from HDMI or something. I think that would have to be what that is. We should probably test that too. Get this back together and lag test VGA, test Mr., and then also test audio. Master Safer, RetroNAS needs to be run on a designated machine, right? It's not just some executable that could run on Windows 10 PC or something. You can absolutely run it as a virtual machine, and that is how I run it. I have an Unraid server, and I basically followed the exact same instructions that I showed in my RetroNAS video, but I created a virtual machine on the Unraid server using the Linux image, and that's what took care of that. So, yeah, absolutely doable. Excellent solution. And it auto boots every time my Unraid is booted. But it also, the advantage of that too is it's accessible right through Unraid's. You know, you could get to it through a browser, or if something happens and it ever locks up, which it's never locked up on me, but you could easily access it through the Unraid interface. Um, it's it's just kind of one of those things where I love the way it's set up. It seems to be working perfect. There was talks of making an Unraid installer for it, but that kind of fell off. I don't really know why, because I thought that would have been a great idea. And then there was also talk of a, a Linux installer that kind of walked you through things a lot easier. And I loved that idea, and I really hope somehow that gets taken care of at some point. I don't know which twist tie is for which. All right. Make some room for the other stuff. Yeah, I actually should do a follow-up like hang session with Dan talking about all the different stuff that's happened with RetroNAS since the release. All right, back to time sleuth. And I'm going to use the same VGA cable. I think my power cable fell over too. Yep. .40p. Trying to line the sensor up 1.75, 1.6. Okay, it accepts 1080p through VGA. That's kind of neat too. Not sure why you would need that, but at least you have all resolutions accessible. So latency is between 1.3 and 1.7 milliseconds, not frames, milliseconds. And that does seem to work pretty well. All right, so I guess I could start doing Mr. testing if you would like, just to try to see what else we could do and if we could break it or anything else. So far, so good, EW. Not as good for retro as the 20-inch, but still good. I would say I would recommend this one for 480i and up. CM, you could absolutely point one file server to another. There's obviously potential for any kind of uh, I guess as long as the way I should say it, as long as your network is configured properly, you should have zero issues doing that. I think that's the safest way because there's always potential for stuff to be going wrong on your network, but it should work fine. Yeah, the 20-inch they already had low stock on. They had a hard time getting the panels. There are still distributors that have it, but I'm not really sure how available it actually is. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Put this stuff away and make room for Mr. testing. And I also think it would be interesting to do direct video testing as well with Mr. Because that might help see if it could accept some of these weird resolution and refresh rates with it. So just need one more second. I'll be able to get that in. Yeah, you never know, Monty. Greg's still working on trying to get panels for the other one that he was demoing on Twitter, and if you saw it live, but that's part shortage really messing people up here. You know, I thought this camera position was going to be great until I completely forgot that I'm going to be walking in front of the camera the whole damn time. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to set up the Mr. INI file to run in its native resolution in one of them and direct video in the other. Okay. So video mode equals 8, so just 1920 by 1080. V-scale mode equals 1, so integer scale only. And vsync adjust equals 2, which is low latency mode. So I got that, and then I'm also going to just enable direct video on the next one. That should be all I need for that. Okay. There is still audio going on, right, Josh? I think audio is working. Is audio working? Should be. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Steven. Let me. Well, Joshua, I think this is the one time that it's not my fault that there's an audio issue. Usually it is my fault. All right. Mr. Plug the sucker in. I'm going to try to power it off of my USB hub. So I got to try to get it close to the 2.5 amp connection, but also close to the monitor here. Okay. Good, good. I'll just plug in the sucker in. Load up that arcade core. So that looks good. Yeah, Game Boy Advance. I think that was one, and then it was the Wonder Swan that also had a weird refresh rate. That double blink out is totally normal, by the way. I wish there was a way to. Well, I guess the most important thing is we see it syncing. We can't really see the quality, but it's the same quality as every decent LCD panel out there. It's not some crazy OLED, but you know, that's fine too. Shows 59.4 hertz, so let's load a game. Ten 1920 by 1080 at 75.5 hertz. So this is absolutely able to handle that refresh rate. That's pretty cool. Is that flickery normal? Let me see. I wonder if I turn off the lights in here, if that will make it easier for this webcam to focus. Let's try that. Is that worse? It's probably worse. I'll try turning all the lights off to see. Yeah, worse. That wasn't very smart. What if I do the opposite and just turn these lights on then? Excuse my giant head again. No. Eh, well, I tried. Gabe, so I agree 100% and then don't. Gabe said LCDs don't go with arcade cabinets. Uh, I don't like it. I don't like doing it this way, but there's going to be a time where you just don't have CRTs, flybacks, chassis. And on the flip side, the Vuelix style flat panel arcades that even play modern consoles are pretty awesome. So I think in that context, this is really cool. That flicker looked like it was on the starting line. It didn't look like it's not happening in this game at all. So let me try another Wonder Swan game. I'm looking for anything. Load Runner. That's definitely working. I didn't know that for a minute there was some vertical. Yeah, a little bit, but that could just be the way. I don't really know the Wonder Swan that much. Is that common? So like, oh, it's barely happening. Honestly, it just. Oh wait, here we go. It seemed like there was some tearing sometimes, but maybe that's just the way the Wonder Swan is. Yeah. All right. Well, let's. What else we got? So it worked with the 75 hertz. So all of these things are adding to the reasons to why you might want this. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but this is just all more reasons that if you have a lot of off timing stuff that's over 15 kilohertz, this might actually work. Looks like tearing on the aftermarket LCDs. It could be. Um, Let me take a look. I would really like this to end up at Brooklyn Arcade, if Steve will take it, because I think it will be able to do a heck of a lot more testing there. Um, so the resolution supported, it says RGB 15 kilohertz, and it also says 31 kilohertz VGA 640 by 480. I would think 15 kilohertz 480i is probably going to be the minimum I would go with this. It says 8 milliseconds response time, but as we could see, it tested faster than that. It does not mention in the spec page refresh rate, though. Yeah, so it looks like it probably can do higher refresh rates than that. I should also connect it to my PC to see what else we could do for raising the refresh on it. R-Type, good call. Thank you. Thank you, Castardo. I appreciate that. And then I will also do direct video to see how it handles the 15 kilohertz over HDMI, but R-Type was a great suggestion. At 55.2 hertz. That's pretty smooth. All the characters are scrolling nicely. There's a little bit on the bottom, but I think that's how the game is. Like shimmering judder, but it's only on the bottom. It's not anywhere else, including in the same spots with other things on screen. So that's actually, I'd be willing to bet that's just kind of how the game looks on a flat panel. But this is, I mean, that was a good suggestion. It's very cool to see that it goes below that as well. I guess Neo Geo would probably be another thing just to double check. .6 hertz. Seems totally fine. Yeah, that looks totally fine. I guess Super Nintendo, just because we had issues with that before, and then I'll try direct video with all that stuff and see what happens. I mean, that looks great. I wouldn't expect it not to, but still, looks great. So let me actually check the chat real quick before I switch over to see if there's anything I missed to test. Uh, Technically, R-Type's 240p, but the fact that we tested it and it worked is certainly good. But let's switch over now. For anybody unaware, you could hit left. So main menu, hit the back button, then hit left, and that shows you if you're connected to the network. That shows you resolutions of analog and digital, and it also allows you to go in and switch to an alternate INI file. So this was something somebody asked me about the Tate Mister video I just did. What if they have one Mister hooked up to two CRTs, one vertical, one horizontal? Set up the main one exactly the way you want it for horizontal, make sure everything's perfect, copy it, create the alternate, and then just add OSD rotate to it, and you're good to go. That's not how that was supposed to go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So here's direct video mode. So this is basically 240p but digital. Sharpness is still up. So now let's check out some of those things directly. Let's go back to R-Type. Actually, just to show you, so 640 by 240, it's basically trying to be, if anybody doesn't know what direct video is, it basically fakes 240p over HDMI for a number of reasons that mostly are CRT related. Yeah, I mean, basically, same thing. Looks pretty good. The sharp scaling of the panel obviously isn't as good as a native 1080p resolution like when we were using the Mister in its standard mode, but this is pretty cool. It's not doing the thing on the bottom, though. It kind of makes me want to go back and test this again. I bet you that's Mister settings, but at least it shows it's not the panel. So that's pretty cool that it works there. So let's try SNES. Not supported. Okay. So I have no problem with that. I think that I give this just as good a review as the other one, but for different purposes. I think this one is going to be good for people who need 480p and up in a Vuelix-like environment. Back at the main. Okay. So I think the only thing we need to do is check to see if there's audio out of this. Shadow Mask, you must play Sega Saturn. Because Could be the ideal monitor for a Mister or a multi-system setup with old and new consoles. Yeah, Castardo, I would say if you are looking at PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, and GameCube and up, this would be it, definitely. I don't think I would go 240p. I think 480i would probably be as low as I would go, which we could definitely test that as well before we close out of here. Let me grab some basic PC speakers, magnetically shielded, of course. And we'll see if this works through the port on the bottom. What's as I'm setting these up, what's another like weird refresh arcade core that Mister has that we could run either in direct video or in HDMI, but something that trips up monitors. Off speaker. And I got to grab the right cable for this too. It was here. No, it's up here. Beautiful. Oops. Uh-oh. Come back here. Yeah, these are great speakers. And yeah, Stephen, I normally would agree with that. So if you're desperate for a panel replacement in your arcade, oops, in your arcade machine, and you can't get a CRT, I think something like this is totally fine. Wait a minute. Was that, other than knocking my speaker over, is this actually a 3.5 millimeter connector on the back of here? Oh, okay. There's two connectors. There's what looks like a direct power input for DC power, and then there's also the 3.5 millimeter audio. Okay. So let's bring that back up and try not to kick my speakers over again. Did Ash join the chat or something? Stuff usually goes wrong when Ash shows up. Sorry, Ash. Good thing that wasn't the Sega Sports Dreamcast going on the floor. Dude, exactly. Exactly why I don't ever want to see that thing in any of my streams again, because, even though I have a lot more space than I used to, that it's still not, it's still an environment where stuff could fall over. Um, I'm just gonna put X-Men versus Street Fighter. Supposedly, there is now the ability to overclock the Mister's CPU and get faster booting and stuff like that, which I think would be pretty cool. Okay, everything's still plugged in, right? So both speakers are plugged in. Power is definitely plugged in. Audio is plugged in here. I'm not getting any audio, and let me try. Nothing out of these speakers. I don't. Does anybody know what this says? Stand along. I don't know what that means. I wouldn't even be able to guess what that is. So of course, since let's just not assume that everything's working, let's do a couple of things. Let me connect my cell phone to those speakers to make sure those are working. And then on the flip side, let me make sure we're getting audio out of that, out of our mister. Because you never know what silly tests I've done that's going to be messing with this. There we go. What I put on that's not going to be caught in a copyright. All right, here we go. Well, the speakers are working. I think it's just my crappy iPhone adapter that's not. There we go. So speakers are definitely working. So let me just confirm that the Mr. audio is actually working. And then if not, then we could say that it's definitely not an output. So I think the easiest way to do that is just to go right into the capture card here and just do this right on stream. So it doesn't show. I'm going to turn the volume down because I don't want it to just all of a sudden blare up in here, but I'm not seeing any audio coming out of this. Oh, yeah, it's an X-Files poster. I guess I should really do a room tour just to show everybody all the crazy stuff I have in here. So interesting, we're not getting any audio at all. Maybe it's because I haven't muted in my AverMedia software. Let me turn the volume down here so it doesn't just jump out on you. Huh. I wonder what crazy setting I messed with on this mister to not get audio out of this. That's pretty funny. So, let me just grab a basic Mr. INI from the internet. See, always test absolutely everything. I got a little raw Mr. INI file. Copy that over. Just double check the settings on this. All very basic. In fact, I'm just going to leave it all stock and see what happens because that should work. So now, if we don't get audio through this, I may have maybe I broke my Mister. Then I'll just grab another D10 to test with. So let's swap this back over. Okay. This good old Sonic. Right, do we have audio? No. Huh? Weird. I can't understand what the heck I would have done. Thor, no, it's not faster than Greg's iPad screen, but it is pretty darn fast. You just grab another D10 and see if that's the issue. Master Saver, what does my wife think of lag testing and all this stuff? Is she into it, or does she just leave you to my insanity? She just leaves me to my insanity. She respectfully couldn't give a fuck, and I mean that in a good way, not a bad way. Like, we both respect what's important to each other, but you know, she doesn't force her hobbies down my throat, and vice versa. So it's mutual respect. It all works. So far, at least. Wait, that's not gonna work because I don't have a. Oh yeah, I do. Wait. I got this right here. Very often, I end up thinking like, why do I have all this crap? I don't use all of it, and then something like this happens where I'm like, wait, I need this weird and rare USB hub. It's only like $6, but it's not common. And then there it is, literally sitting right next to me. All right. Geez, I don't know. This is embarrassing. I have no idea why this wouldn't work. Huh. Yeah, I am so confused right now why I'm not getting audio through this. And do I even have an HDMI thing here I could use? Ah, shit. I guess I can go get my Switch. That is so weird. See if I use a custom audio device. Wait, are we getting audio now? I don't think I would be able to hear it. You all will have to tell me if we're hearing audio because I could see it. Okay, so we are absolutely getting audio from the Mister. I guess I could unmute this real quick. Turn it up. Okay, so at least we know for a fact that it's putting audio out. So let me put it back into the monitor and see what we got. Thor, no, I don't own any B&O TVs. I actually reached out to RGB Rob a few weeks ago because I know he has talked a lot about those. So I wanted to see if that's something maybe he had, but no. I haven't heard back yet. So, but no, I haven't tested any myself. I would certainly like to. All right, so we know now that audio is definitely coming out of here. It is not or coming out of the mister is not coming out of this, so you're going to have your own audio separation solution, which, fine, I guess. Yeah, nothing. There's nothing else in here that could be audio related, right? Oh, no, I hit power. That was my fault. My fault. Yeah, that ultra vivid. Not really a fan. But it's off by default, so that's not something to worry about. I mean, is it backwards? All right, so no audio at all from this. So let me leave a note for that. So I guess I will double check in the chat if anybody wants anything else. But I think the only other thing to double check would be how it works with 480i, and if there's any other kind of weirdness that we could see, or if it really is it 240p that's the problem, or is it really 15 kilohertz a no-go for this at all? I will pack this up kind of slowly just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, because I don't want to put this all away just to have somebody have an awesome idea that I that I forget about or something. So I'm just gonna take my time with this. Point 0.5 millimeter. Nothing else I'm forgetting, I guess. We are, I guess, almost done. It says we've been streaming for an hour and 45. It really, I mean, it does not feel this long at all. That Xbox stream that was like a half hour long, that every single thing I did was a massive failure, that felt like a 4-hour stream. And this is the opposite. This felt like a half hour's blown by. I'll finish it up kind of quick though, because I don't want to keep anybody, but I think the only thing to try is really just the 480i stuff. Uh, what's anybody's thoughts on which console to use? I was thinking, um, hmm. I was thinking of grabbing the Nomad again because we know that one had interference. It did work, but with interference. And then that way we could try to switch the 240p suite to 480i, but there's got to be a better one, a better thing here. Someone should make a nice wooden floor console to bolt this into. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I really think that stuff like that we're going to start to see like retro inspired TVs. So like giant pieces of wood, heavy wooden furniture, but with a flat panel bolted in to be reminiscent of those giant CRTs that our grandmas or great grandmas had, depending how old you were. Chronos compatible with the Vuelix frame. I don't know and have no way to test. I would hope so because I think it's the same screen size. I think the Vuelix is 32-inch. But if you check out the panel that or the full arcade setup that they have on their website, I linked in the description. They definitely have that in mind for this. And I think that setup's pretty cool because the full arcade setup that they have allows you to connect old and new consoles. And they say arcade boards, but once again, I don't think this one is really going to be doing it for the arcade boards. All right, so I had no other suggestions, so I'm just going to basically repeat the same test I did before. I'm just going to do it and try to toggle between 480i and 240p to see if the resolution changes or the interference goes away. And then that should be it. I should have, unless life happens and messes me up, I should have at least one other live stream this week testing a new product, but possibly even two. So hopefully I don't annoy everybody by constantly showing up and doing this, but I love it. This is the exact testing that I would have done anyway, regardless. I just get to hang out with all you cool people at the same time. Midnight Resistance, 57 hertz. I will test that next time. So far, so good, though. It absolutely passed every single thing that we sent to it. I guess you know what? I take that back. I think the very last thing we should do is connect it to the PC and see what we got there. Yeah, okay. That was I should have thought of that before, but that'll be the final. So let me grab this for now. Up. So let me just hit auto. That didn't really do anything, and we're still getting the interference. So let's video tests. Interesting. Does not like 480i. I think now we have to test something else. Interesting. What if I hit it back to 240p? There we go. I didn't hit the button properly. So I guess I'll test PlayStation 1 because that's an important thing to note. This might actually be just a 480p and up monitor, which is fine. I still think that's, for this use case, I think it's totally fine. I think the 20-inch, I think that was awesome that it accepted just direct 15 kilohertz RGB, but I really think the use case for this is going to be more along the lines of like a Vuelix style arcade. And I truly think that a lot of 480p games look at home on a flat panel. Not as good as native, 1080p, but still, I think they look good. So, I believe PlayStation boots in 480i, so that should be a great test. No, wrong box. Wait. I think it's this. Okay, perfect. We have a PS1. I just got to grab power supply, and we should be good to go. And just in case anybody was wondering, yes, there's no C-Sync coming out of PlayStation 1 consoles, but that's partly what the SCART cleaner is doing, is making sure that that's not a worry. What size is the screen when it's in 4:3 mode? That's a pretty good question. I could try to measure that out. It's PS1 will work with a Genesis 2 power supply, right? Yeah, it's got to be what it is. The Genesis 2 PSU. Grab one of those. I know I got a couple in here. Ah, here we go. Yes, Genesis 2. Yeah, not working. So I would say 480p and up. Not a bad thing. I'm not mad at it. Just something to note. And let me grab a PlayStation game. I believe Lethal Enforce is 240p, so we should be able to see it switch over. Just to confirm. Yeah, okay. Two 40, 57 hertz. Auto adjustment. So there's less interference on this, I think. But no, it's still there. It's because it's an all-white screen. Um, okay. 24-inch about. It's probably, depending on your settings, I would call it a 25-inch comparable 4:3. Depending on your overscan settings and the whatever you're running, it could be 24, could be 26, but that's good to know. Good question. Mark that down as well. Just marking my notes about the findings here, not like not out texting while I was on stream. Happy Halloween, Monster Kaiju. Thank you very much. You know, a couple years ago, somebody was at, actually more than a couple years ago, somebody asked what I was doing for Halloween. I was like, I don't really know. Like, what, you don't care? You don't dress up? You don't, like, go to the bars and have fun? I was like, no, I guess I don't. And they're like, well, what did you always do on Halloween? And then this is such a cheesy story, but then it hit me. I was like, I used to go see the Typo Negative Halloween show, and then he died. Oh, that's why I don't care about Halloween anymore. So, yeah, I got a bags of candy in case the neighborhood kids stop by, and that's pretty much it. So the final thing will be PC monitor to see what refresh rates we can jack this up to. Doing a bonfire, that sounds cool. I tried doing that last night, but it got pretty not a bonfire, a fire pit. Just one of those like you throw a log and a piece of metal in your backyard type of thing. It was cool. It started to get a little smoky, so we ended up going in, but all right. So I think the only thing I'm going to need now is a longer HDMI cable to reach my PC's graphics card. And that should be all. And I think this one will even fit. Yeah, I don't even have to go get another one. Setting. Okay. So it says it's only going up to 60 hertz, but let me see what else I could do. Because my main display is running at 144 hertz and 4K. So, but obviously the 3060 graphics card should be able to do it. Any suggestions from anybody here? I'll to try and force higher refresh rates because it obviously worked with the 75 hertz one. If Art was here, he'd know. He'd have 100 ways to do it. 4x3 size was 25 inches ish. Because this is 26. But not all games would fill it. If you were I would 25 is a good estimate. But if you have your core set up right, especially if you're using 1080p over, that's what you would get. Interesting. The tape is like stuck in here. Huh. I think somebody taped it to the wrong piece of metal. I think they must have taped the panels down, like the LCD panel itself, and then put the frame over it with the panel still still covered and taped. Oops. Small complaint though. How well does it do with downscaling? I don't think this could handle higher options. Let me try NVIDIA's settings instead of Windows and see if I could do it through the control panel. Change resolution. If this crashes the stream, we'll we'll have to just call it. So I'm gonna try 75. Did it say 75 hertz? Let me try powering this off and back on. No, it still says it's 60. Will this fit in my Chulix? I believe so. Fine. Yes, 1920 by 1080 at 75 hertz. So let's just keep going higher. Yes. Customize. Delete. Let's see if we could do up to 120. Oh man, what was that? All right. One way to get your steps in, yeah. So this one, and we got no support for 120. So let's try 80. Nope, doesn't seem to be working at 80. Actually, no, didn't do that right. So I guess 75 hertz was high as it would go. I guess that would make sense. So let me just try that one more time, just to double check. Yep, 1920 by 1080 at 75 hertz. So interesting. Okay. Is there any other custom refresh rate that anybody would want me to test? Anything that I could do just to double that everything's working? I'm just cleaning up the old display modes in case we need to add another one, but I think be it. 720? I mean, I could certainly try. Let's oh, like 720p at 120? Yeah, let me try this. So, let's start with 1280 by 720 at 60 and see what happens. That is a good question. So 1920 or 1280 by 720 at 59, that does work obviously. So let's see if that's a custom resolution we could add. 720. Okay, and what do we got? No support. So it would probably have to be 720 up to 75 hertz as well. I'll try that. Customize. File. Great idea, though. You never know. Bye. And 75. So yeah, that is the highest. But hey, I mean that's, if you're a WonderSwan fan, there you go. So I think I'm about to call it, but any other suggestions that you all might have, now's the time. Otherwise, I'm just going to start boxing it up. Yeah, graphics gear, it does. We did test that earlier on, though, and it is compatible. It's basically compatible with everything we threw at it. Okay. Well, I think this is basically it. I'll have the post up in a couple of moments. I like it very much. I think it's a very specific use case, but I think if you fall under that use case, that this is one that you would be very happy with. The use cases, just to sum it all up again, for anybody just joining, or I guess I could tell people in the post to skip to the end. The use case is having these mounting brackets on all four sides. So you could, actually, you probably would want to mount it this way or something. Let me double check that. Yeah. So you could have this thing flush mounted into a Vuelix style arcade cabinet. You could mount it in any orientation because there's four of these things, so it would be one on each side. So right off the bat, if you need weird mounting like that, this is great. I thought it did an excellent job from 480p up, even going directly into it. So if you put this in a multicade setup where, like a Vuelix style setup, where you had from Dreamcast and GameCube and I guess PlayStation 2 and forced 480p mode up, I think this would be an excellent choice. And then, of course, because it's got 1.3 milliseconds of lag in 1080p, 1.8 milliseconds, and the others, probably 1.7 is a more fair. But either way, less than 2 milliseconds of latency in all modes. Including interlaced, but that would really only be 1080i, or I guess digital 480i. But yeah, so it's interesting. I think for its use case, it's awesome. I think the only complaint I really have in context is the HDMI doesn't have audio extraction. You would have to get your own, which isn't an expensive solution or a hard solution. It's just one that would be neat if it was built in. But take it in the context of when you would want to use this thing. I think it's absolutely awesome, and I really like it. But if you, and I mean this with all of the love to Arcooda, if you are just looking for a low latency flat panel, just grab the cheapest thing you could find off of Amazon or Best Buy or Walmart or whatever else. Check the websites to make sure that it's definitely low latency. But if you're just looking for an LCD panel, there's a bunch of other things that are probably a better choice. And Arcooda would probably be the first to say that as well. I'm sure they want to sell their monitors to the people that'll truly benefit from all of the advantages of it. So mounting, sharp scaling from 480p up, all of the different refresh rates from all the different cores looked fine. So this thing's a win in my opinion. Just the only thing it's not for is, at least, unless I'm doing something wrong, but I wouldn't plug 15 kilohertz directly into the VGA input. But that's it. Yeah, the only thing I don't have a way to test it with is like 24 kilohertz games or something like that. So, well, thank you all for sticking with me. This was a very fun stream as usual, and I should have at least one other this week. But to be honest, could be two more. So thank you all so much, and I will see you next time.